Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. The Pharmacy Leaders Podcast is a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, with interviews and advice on building your professional network, brand, and a purposeful second income from students, residents, and innovative professionals.
Welcome back, everyone, to Pharmacy Leaders Podcast. This is Kaycie Rathburn. I am a student at the University of Houston College of Pharmacy and the APhA ASP chapter president there. We're at the APhA Institute on Alcoholism and Drug Dependencies in Salt Lake City, Utah. I have a new guest here, Ryan. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Neuzil. I'm going into my P3 year at UIC, which is the University of Illinois at Chicago. I am involved in APhA. I'm the VP of Finance. I am also involved in our club called APhA, which is the Association of Indian Pharmacists in America. I'm the vice president.
Nice.
And other than that, I dabble here and there at PDC. But yeah, that's me.
Nice. We're actually brothers then.
Yeah, we're brothers.
So what did you hope to get out of this institute?
So this is my second year coming. So last year I made a goal of myself to actually share my story because even though I got a lot from the first time, I knew a second time it's a lot of information to take in, and so I need more time to absorb it. So I came in this year thinking that I would share my story, and I did. And I got a very good response from everyone. And also, I was able to kind of mentor the people who came with me, my classmates, along the ride. And so I love this conference, and yeah, I decided to come back.
That's really awesome. When did you, first, let's take it back to when you first originally, before this is your second time, your original time. When did you decide that this was something that you wanted to do?
So we had, at our school, when you go to this, you have to write a reflection paper, and then you also have to give a presentation. So there was a presentation given on alcoholism and drug abuse, and that's affected my family, so I was already interested. I went to the presentation, and I just thought it would be perfect. The opportunity to learn more, an opportunity to actually talk with addicts and other pharmacists would be awesome. So I just wanted the opportunity really bad. I knew my odds were against me because we were told that there's only a lot of spots, and I was a P1. So being a P1 and a lot of spots, I was like, oh, well, I might not get it, but why not? I tried, and I ended up getting it, thankfully, and I'm forever grateful.
That's awesome. Did you have to redo the presentation and a new essay when you came the second time? Or?
So the reason why we had to do those was for credit. So we don't go through the Notre Dame credit. We do our own little thing.
Gotcha.
And so to earn that credit, they want some sort of paperwork, right?
Right.
This time, I'm not doing it for credit. I'm doing it because I like coming here, and I plan on coming back. Keep coming back, it works. You'll hear that a lot here.
Yeah.
So I plan on doing that and making this a yearly thing for myself.
Awesome. So what do you hope to do with the information that you get back when you get back? And if you could touch on when you first went compared to the information now, kind of compare.
So initially, at our school, in all pharmacies, I can assume that the curriculum has very little addiction and recovery, stuff like that. And I know I spoke to P3s, and they said, I think they get it a quick seminar on narcotics.
Right, we get 1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour, 1 hour.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I get that. There's a lot of stuff to teach us in this short amount of time, but this is such a prevalent obstacle for us to overcome. And I thought, well, this would be a perfect opportunity to, 1, get credit, 2, learn a little bit about more of my family and what they go through, 3, understand the disease, and 4, be able to take it back and enroll it into my profession. What I got out of it, I would say it changed my mind on a lot of things. It was mostly with my father, and that it helped. I solely put coming to this institute as a way that we rebonded. But now that I have that rebonding, I'm able to help him more. And in terms of that, it's kind of giving me the practice to engage others. I haven't had the ability to do that, and it's very hard because if you know anything about an addict, you have to wait till they come to you.
Right.
And not many people working in community like I do, they're not going to come to you with addict problems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shame. So it's been hard to try and implement it into my pharmacy, but when I did do the presentation, I told everyone, hey, even if you don't have anyone with addiction in your family, it is well worth it. You learn things that you'll never learn in school, and it's a perfect opportunity to, 1, network, and 1, maybe discover a new field that you want to go into.
Right, and I think it's a good way for all of us to be hopeful. I mean, I know you mentioned, it's hard for people to come forward in a community setting, and I think this conference makes it hopeful for all of us that one day that won't be the stigma around it.
Yeah, when I spoke about my personal story, that's the one thing that I wanted to emphasize was hope, and I made that clear. A lot of people had very touching stories, and and some of them were sad, right? And so, like, yeah, you want to get that off your chest, and I totally applaud those people. But if you keep talking about depressing thoughts, it's hard when you are in a situation such as I was last year, when you're hearing these things about these things not working out. So I wanted to bring my story, and my story is I guess, quote unquote, good story.
Right.
So I was able to express my story and say, hey, there actually is hope. Like, my father he's now 2.5 years sober, and I got into pharmacy school through all this. So, I mean, regardless of where you're at, you always got to keep that hope, because once you lose that, then you lose the person you love.
Yeah, I agree. And when you shared about your hope, that made me want to share about my hopeful story. Even though the endings are a little bit different, I think that it's good that we can find hope in all of it. And like you said, if we continue to harp on the bad side of things, like, we're not doing justice to ourselves and our future patients.
Exactly.
So, where do you see the greatest need in your community with this?
So I'm from Chicago. So obviously, I think the greatest need would be, there is a lot of drugs in Chicago. There's a lot of issues in Chicago in general. But greatest need, I would have to say, is the homeless. Unfortunately, it's very hard to get contracts with that, because there's a lot of liability with the homeless. I'm actually talking to a friend right now who is president of the ROCI, and I think she's trying to get into a homeless shelter, which would be awesome. And she needs APHA's manpower, because we're the biggest pharmacist association, to help them out with supplies and just personnel. So hopefully that works. If not, definitely the homeless population, and it's hard because they don't have health care. They don't have the health literacy to even, I guess, understand what we're trying to do to help them. All they've known is, being hurt and, falling to this disease, basically, and losing everyone in their family and losing all the trust of healthcares and just people in general. So that's probably the number one, in my opinion, where this institute and this information can help us with the community.
Yeah, so I'm from Houston, so that's the same thing. We have a huge homeless population, and it's a big struggle that we see a lot. It's actually, the first interview that I did was with Callie Downs, and we have an initiative at our school that we actually are partnered with a homeless shelter, and it's completely student-run every Sunday.
Nice.
So I think that would definitely be beneficial. I'll introduce you guys later to kind of get an idea of what is possible.
Yes.
And why do you think it's so important for us to become educated in this way? I know that at Institute, I feel like this is a lot different than what we're getting, back home at our colleges. And it kind of is like a roundabout way of learning. So why do you think it's so important in this specific way?
So, I mean, the timing, right? Everyone knows about the opioid crisis, and if you don't, you've been sleeping under a rock.
Yeah.
So definitely the opioid crisis has probably brought a lot of attention, at least to politicians. So learning about it right now, when it's at its first initial, baby steps of where people are actually finding this a disease and starting to classify it as a disease, and there's been such a drastic change, and there is still a stigma, and there is still too much shame, but there is a change. And if you're at the beginning of that change, the more information you know, the faster that change will spread. So I think coming here and learning about this information that you get very little of in your curriculum already puts you at a higher, better opportunity to pass that along to other peers, other colleagues. You can tell them to come here. And then also and when you go to this institution, they give you all the information that they've had. So you can go and look that up yourself. And then if you're super passionate about it like I am, you could even find a career in it.
Yeah. Do you want to explain more for people that might not be here, the shame aspect of things?
I myself have dealt with shame. When you have a alcoholic and narcotic abusing father, you can't talk to anyone about that. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've either know someone or have someone in your family or a friend that has dealt with some sort of addiction, and you are already judging them. I mean, it's natural. It's a human nature to judge first, unfortunately. And so this institute really goes into depth about how an addict actually feels, and actually how they already feel shame, and putting more shame on them just actually inhibits them from getting the help. And even the way you look at people, they can tell. And so this institute goes in on how to, correctly, that's a good word, correctly approach these people and not have that shame or judgment look in your eye, to initiate that compassionate first encounter to help them on the path of sobriety.
Right. It's almost like our entire society needs to like reprogram our brains.
Oh, I totally agree.
With this whole issue, and to make it where we can all understand the shame of it.
Yeah, and I would hope that, I don't hope, but unfortunately, most people understand the shame. They're just too afraid to act on it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what shame is, right? I mean,
Right.
that's the definition. But empowering yourself by coming here, learning about the shame, learning how to deal with the shame, and learning how to help others deal with shame is the first step onto the right path.
I agree. So how do you think this experience will impact you and whatever you choose as your future path in pharmacy? I know you talked that you want to make it somewhat of a career.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I still have no idea what I'm doing. I'm going to my P3 year, and
That's
I think
okay.
everyone's like, oh, you'll figure out P4 year, and I'm like, well, I want to know now, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really know. But
I think that's with all pharmacy students. We're a little type A, need to know everything up front.
I'm definitely, so I'm more of a type B, if I have to say myself.
Okay.
But I think that the uncertainty of the future is what actually scares us, and going to this institute has kind of given me at least an idea of what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of helping people is always what's innate within a pharmacist and any healthcare, but the idea of helping an addict is something that you can only really get if you go here. Like we've spoke about earlier, we don't get this in the curriculum, so there's no time or place where we really deal with an addict unless you deal with it at home or personal life, or I guess coming here. So I would like to, in the perfect world, figure out a way to start our own, if pharmacists were able to get, reimbursed for this, start our own, start up an own company where I can actually go out there, help people. I've had this idea of tagging along with my dad, because he does do talks sometimes, and giving them the biology aspect while he gives them the personal aspect, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to introduce this population into the actual environment, or not environment, but into the world. I mean, they're pushed down, they're shamed on, they're judged, and I'm proud to say that my dad was an addict and now he's sober. I don't talk about it. I'm not open about it to people who I don't know, because there's still a shame and there's still a fear of judgment.
Yeah.
But it's with my close friends, I'm really open with it, and my father is too. And getting it off your chest and speaking to a group of people about it really helps you start that healing process, I want to say. For me, at least, everyone's different. But at least for me, talking about it this time around has really kind of just resolved it. I was in a good place after the first one. My dad and I reconciled, and we got past. We still have our fights here and there, and there's still some resentment. I'm working on it. It's hard, but this institute gives you the first step towards forgiveness and forgiving yourself. And I don't know where I'd be without it, to be honest.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I definitely think that is true, that starting the whole process and healing and continuing to forgive yourself and forgive the person and all of that. I think that's really important for everyone that has any relationship to any kind of substance use disorder. So if you had to pick a favorite session or sessions,
yes.
What would you pick?
Well, I'm not going to, I'm on record now, so I liked all of them. But if I had to pick, definitely Dr. Norton's, his talk about how he talks about the addict, and then he goes very deep into the physiology of it, and it's a lot of information. It's 3 hours, and you sit there, and there's a break in between, but it's a lot of information to intake. Yeah, I'm very thankful that they post all of the PowerPoints online, so you can go back and review them. But there's a lot of information to be had. He's also able to have a humor with it. It's not dry. Right. We've all had that dry professor where you're just like, God, does it ever end? Yeah. But no, he definitely makes it fun. Maybe sometimes a little too fun, but it's well worth it. It's a fun ride, and you learn a lot along the way. My second favorite is actually the debate that we had today. They had a similar debate last year, and it's just seeing the pharmacists as real people is really encouraging. Knowing that they can, we're taught to be professional all this time, and they're not always the most professional, but that's life. I'm one of those people who it's hard for me to be professional when I'm talking to someone for real, being real with them. That white coat, it's scary. So trying to get down to someone's level, and that debate really shows you a way to, talk about very important situations, but also have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we lose ourselves sometimes in our profession is, it's all serious. But if you're able to have those light laughs and moments, it really connects with the patient, and you build that rapport. And that's how you gain trust, and that's how they start taking your advice seriously.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something that I've encountered in APhA as well. When we go out into the community, you've got to engage people somehow,
Definitely.
And laughter is such an easy way to do that.
Yeah, laughter is the best medicine. I 100% agree with that, regardless of being a pharmacist.
So to end this, what do you recommend for people that want to attend Institute?
Well, there really isn't much preparation you can do unless I would highly suggest talking to someone you know. There's a bunch of schools here. I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you go to one of those schools, and
or you went.
Yeah. Definitely talk to them. I'm positive they have nothing negative to say about this. Talk to whoever's in charge of getting you guys seats. Anything you could do ahead of time to get you that. They kind of like rank you, at least at my school, they rank you based on your year. And we also have to write like a little script on like why we want to go. Make it personal. Mine was super personal the first time, and I think that's why I was able to go as a P1. The second time I begged. I begged a little, and I was able to get Keith to give me a spot. So yeah, I think if you're struggling with abuse, or if you know someone who's struggling with abuse and you don't know what the first step is, come here. Here. This is the first step. This will get you on the right path. And if you're just be honest with the person who's deciding who's going, and you should be able to come.
Yeah, I agree. So thank you for joining us today, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
And I really appreciate your honesty. And thank you again, Pharmacy Leaders Podcast, for bringing light to this subject. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Support for this episode comes from the audiobook Memorizing Pharmacology, a relaxed approach. With over 9,000 sales in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, it's the go-to resource to ease the pharmacology challenge. Available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.com, in print, ebook, and audiobook. Thank you for listening to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. Be sure to share the show with the hashtag #PharmacyLeaders.